Hello, my name is Gil Penalosa, and this is Cities for Everyone, the webinar. Every other Tuesday, I invite fascinating people from around the world to share experiences and knowledge that will help us create affordable, equitable, and sustainable cities. I was born in Bogota, Colombia, where as commissioner, I led the design and construction of over 200 parks and took a small program called Ciclovia, Open Streets, and increased it to over 120 kilometers, 75 miles of car-free streets every Sunday and holiday, where more than 1 million people walk, bike, run, shop, enjoying the presence of each other. 17 years ago, I created 880 Cities, a non-profit organization based in Toronto, Canada, where I live. Last year, I ran for mayor and came second with 100,000 votes. My aim was to change the conversation in creating a Toronto for everyone. I've been fortunate to have worked in over 350 cities in all continents, sharing and learning. Based on all experiences, I developed master classes and keynotes customized to each city. But Cities for Everyone, the webinar, is a way of giving back. It's always free and hopefully always interesting. Please invite others to join us every other Tuesday, anyone who cares about cities and people, equity and sustainability, about all living older, healthier, and happier. Hello, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. My name is Gil Penalosa, and I'm your host on the bi-weekly webinar Cities for Everyone. I am the founder of 880 Cities and also Cities for Everyone. And I created this webinar, always free and hopefully always interesting, as a way to inspire people from all backgrounds on how to be passionate advocates on creating equitable and sustainable cities. Today, we have a fascinating guest on a most important topic. We have Sara Candiracci, who is Associate Director of Arup, and she's based in Milan, Italy. And she's going to be speaking about child-friendly and playful cities. Sara has worked in multiple cities around the world, in many, many countries, in small, in big, and she has developed, along with her team, some very useful tools that are free to anybody. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting, because if we improve the beginning, we're going to improve their lives everywhere. Sara, thank you very, very much for having accepted the invitation, and welcome.
Thanks, Gil. Again, thanks, everyone. So just a quick background. I'm an urban planner's background. My surname is Candiracci, not Candiricci, but it's okay. It's not easy to pronounce. I'm an urban planner's background and also social researcher. I've been with Arup for the past almost 7 years. Now, I was in London before, working on with the international development team, and now I'm based in Milan, where I'm part of the city plan and design team. But at the same time, I'm leading the global service on social value and equity. And over the years, also before joining Arup, I've been working a lot on how to make urban spaces more inclusive for everyone. Before joining Arup, I've been working for more than 15 years with UN organizations, the World Bank. So I've been working a lot in Africa, Latin America, Southeast Asia. So really looking at how to make also vulnerable context more accessible, more inclusive for everyone, in particular the more vulnerable and excluded groups. So I kind of brought this passion and interest also into Arup. And over the years, I've been doing with Arup a lot of work on how to make cities more child-friendly, more playful, and not only for children, but for everyone. I will talk to you more about this. Then other work I've been doing, looking at how to make cities more gender responsive, so looking at the needs of different genders in cities. So yeah, I've been really trying to create and to contribute to create guidance documents, and also piloting different tools and methods on how to create cities for everyone. But today, let me share my screen. So today I'm going to talk about the work that at Arup we have been doing on child-friendly cities, but also on playful cities, again, not only for children, but looking at different age groups. But before I start, I'd like to give you kind of a brief overview about Arup, which is where I work, and also how we are organized, because I think it's quite important to kind of frame why in Arup we're doing this type of work. So in terms of Arup, we are basically a global collective of 18,000 more or less designers, planners, engineers, social scientists. We work globally, and our mission is quite bold: is to shape a better world. Arup was founded more than 70 years ago, and what I think is interesting and important about how we are organized, that Arup is an independent organization which is owned in trust by us, by its employees. And this is important because it gives us the freedom, first of all, to work collaboratively across regions, across the globe, but at the same time give us the freedom to also decide to choose which type of work we want to do, and also the type of clients and partners we want to work with. And also this allows us to invest funds in research, which is important for innovation. There is not innovation without research, and also for engaging with different partners, which is important, also partnering with the like-minded complementary organization, because only by bringing different knowledge together, we actually can create, shape new agendas, create new ideas, innovative ideas, like the one that I'm going to present today on how to make cities more child-friendly and playful, because it's not the result of only of Arup's work, but is actually the result of a collaboration which has been going on for many years now with many organizations across the globe. So the way I structured the presentation of today is in three ways. I will first give you kind of an overview of why a child-friendly city, what it is, kind of framing the context and the benefits that by creating child-friendly city we generate, and playful city we generate, not only for children but the entire society. Then I will go into one piece of work that we have been doing, which is the Proximity of Care Design Guide, and then going more into depth, then looking at how to design for play and nature in particular. So starting with the first, sorry, it's not moving. Yeah, okay, now it's moving. Okay, so So why child-friendly city? So over the years, as I said, we've been, as Arup, we've been working with clients, partners globally to create the guidance documents, tools, methods to basically generate the evidence to show that it's important to look at the needs of young children, of children in general, the caregivers, pregnant women, the way we design our cities. So we wanted to create the evidence that is important, and also to create the data. But at the same time, we wanted to create tools and methods that other practitioners can use to embed this approach in their daily work. And why are we doing this? Because we know that more than 1 billion children worldwide are growing up in cities, and as a consequence, their lives and their well-being are being shaped by urban environments, which in most cases, are not designed in a way that considers and address their needs and also the needs of their families. So as urban planners, and also as a company which has the ambition to shape a better world, we said that we feel that we have the responsibility to create cities that are more supportive, that also enable children well-being and development. So this is kind of the why we've been doing over the years quite a lot of work, and it's also all publicly available on our website. So we started with a piece of work. As I said, we wanted to create the evidence, because if there is no data, people don't believe you. So it's very important to have data to show and build, create the case for this approach. So we studied 40 cities around the world to basically understand how children experience cities and also the challenges that they face. And we consider different type of countries, we consider different type of climates, and also different type of socioeconomic and cultural context. So what we saw is that children experience cities in a different way. This kind of change from place to place. At the same time, we identify 5 key common challenges, which are often the same. The first one is traffic and pollution. I think we all agree that is a big problem, and in particular for children, because for their size, they breathe more quickly, more rapidly, and so they are more affected by air pollution. At the same time, they're not able to understand the risk of cars crossing to kind of measure the time they need to cross a road. So because of their size and their knowledge about how to behave in cities, they're more affected by traffic and also by air pollution. Another problem we saw is sprawling cities, which encourage car dependency. I know that is a big issue in the US and in other countries. But at the same time, sprawling cities increase traffic and pollution. At the same time, overly dense high rise also are kind of an issue because they can lead to isolation. Another issue we saw is crime, social fears, and also parents' perception of risk in terms of accidents, crime, and traffic, because all these have a huge impact on children independent mobility and also their access to space. So children independent mobility, as I will show you in the next slide, is very important because it's critical for allowing children to interact with the community where they live, with people, and now is becoming a big issue because they're more and more dependent to their parents. And of course, the perception of crime, the existence, the perception of crime and risk. This is, of course, one of the reasons why parents or caregivers are not letting children to move around alone. And also another issue is about inadequate and unequal access to the city and also to nature, which is a big issue that is more and more evident. And the uneven distribution of play spaces, services, which are targeting the needs of children. So all these are kind of key problems that we identify across cities. Of course, in some cities are more important than others. There are definitely other problems in different cities, but these are like the common challenge that we identify across the globe for children. Then what we saw is that over the past decades, most cities have not prioritized in planning, policy, and design the needs of children. The way we've been designing and creating cities over the past decades was done in a way that basically the user, we've been considered as our final user, a healthy 30 years old adult. And so we've been creating cities to be smart, to be competitive, to be efficient, so without actually looking at the needs of other type of users. So the needs of children in particular, as they don't have a voice in many cases in decision making, also like women in many cases, so their needs have been overlooked. And over time, children have been pushed out of cities, have been pushed out of sidewalks. You can see, the difference from, this picture, like, also when I was a kid, I was like always playing outside with our parents, with my friends. Now this is not happening anymore in our cities. So as again, children-dependent mobility is so important for their social development, for their independency. But we've been, as we know, creating cities mainly for cars, not for humans in many cases. And this is shows about, like, for instance, in the UK, active outdoor is one issue, is struggling. Children not playing outside as we did when when I was a kid, for instance. In fact, in the UK, time playing outside has declined by 50%. And also the roaming distance have reduced by 90% in a generation. At the same time, looking at the positive side, because there are so many, positive examples from around the world, by studying cities where some steps have been taken to improve the condition of children, their families, we also identify kind of key features, but most importantly, the benefits that this approach is generating for the broader society. So I will take you now through all these benefits so I can give a more in-depth presentation, and I will associate now each benefit to a case study from cities around the world. And I'm doing this just to show you that this approach is not rocket science. It's really something that we can start doing tomorrow by having the right tools, the right also mindset, in some cases, the right knowledge. And also, with the evidence that I was mentioning before, which is there. And I'm going to show, I'm going to share with you right now. So the first benefit of creating child-friendly cities or playful cities is to improve the health and well-being, not only for children, but for the entire society. This is the example of Barcelona, the popular super blocks, which offer, they were not created to create a child-friendly cities. They were created to improve the living condition of people living in Barcelona, because what they're doing, basically, they're offering wider sidewalks, pedestrian networks, and intersections. And as a result, these spaces allow children, families, and community to be more active, to spend more time outside together, which in result is created tangible benefits from the health and well-being of the whole entire community. The second example comes from Chile, showing that by creating more child-friendly, playful spaces, we're actually contributing to the creation of stronger communities. In fact, positive social interaction between community members of all ages help build the relationships and also to create and foster a sense of community. Again, this is from Chile, from Santiago, where they created this park, which is called the Bicentennial Children's Park, which provides is a linear park which provides a continuous, accessible walkway across the city, addressing on one hand the deficit of high quality public space, while at the same time is connecting to parts of the city, like a low income part of the city neighborhood with like a more wealthy neighborhood, which in this way also helps integrating communities from different socioeconomic background or conditions. The third example showing the local economic benefits that child-friendly city generate comes from London. So this approach actually is good for business, as also Gil mentioned at the beginning. In fact, cities which offer diverse and accessible activities which are attractive and appealing to everyone, including children and families, actually are also, cities that create, basically, they provide the right platform for economic development. And this is the case of King's Cross in London, which few years back, only 22 years back, was an underused and unsafe industrial area. And the way it was regenerated was like creating public spaces and also retails and like mixed use spaces, which integrated also with intervention initiatives during the weekend for children and families. And I mean, if you've been in London, you can see that place is one of the most vibrant area in London. The third benefit is about safety. As I said before, traffic, pollution, they are all hazards which have a huge impact to the entire society, but children in particular. And as I said, children are more vulnerable because they can be hit by cars due to their smaller scale, smaller size, but also because of their underdeveloped capacity to judge the speed of the cars, and also the lack of experience of and understanding of traffic danger. So this, in South Korea, what they did is basically they created safe routes between the house of where children live, in particular small kids, and to go to schools. So by creating this safe route, they're actually creating this kind of network in the area, which has reduced drastically the risk of traffic accident. Another important benefit is about climate resilience. In fact, measures that, but I will go more in depth about this because it's quite important in the next part of my presentation. Because measures that improve climate resilience can also create opportunities to expand children everyday freedom and possibility to meet with the rest of the community. For instance, this is an example coming from Copenhagen in Denmark, where they're implementing a citywide plan which seeks to create 300 adaptive water management projects by 2032. And rather than only preventing flooding through this intervention, what they're doing is basically they're creating they're activating urban spaces so that they can function. They have like a climate adaptation resilience function when it's flooding, when it's raining a lot, but at the same time, when it's not raining, they become a space for public gathering, for play activities and so forth. So this is showing how basically you can, by embedding this principle into the way we design nature-based solution, into the way we design our infrastructure, we actually can create benefits, not only for the environment, which is very important, but also for communities. So it's a better return of investment. The third one is about nature. And again, also this, I will go back to this in the second part of my presentation because it's very important. So another benefit is by adopting this approach, we actually create a more sustainable environment for children and good benefits for the planet. Because cities, they need to enhance children a connection to nature. And this can be done through different ways, through greenable infrastructure, but also creating more healthy environment. And the connection with nature is important, again, not only for children, but for everyone, but for children in particular, because it creates a range of physical and mental benefits, including, for instance, lower rates of obesity, depression, stress, and attention disorder. So it comes from China, this example, where nature has become a part of children's everyday journey in a Qian city, where basically there was a healthy polluted 13-kilometer stretch along a river, which was transformed into a resilient and ecologically rich landscape for the community. So again, looking at how to regenerate one polluted area into a space where communities can thrive, and also the planet. And the last benefit is about creating, using this approach to also to be kind of catalyst for improving cities and also for empowering children. I think a couple of events ago, there was the mayor of Tirana, which is, the kind of rock star globally in terms of how to put in practice child-friendly cities. It's kind of a hero for everyone who is passionate about this approach, because what it did is really transform the city by putting the needs of children and their families at the heart, and also create a kind of a council for children to ensure that they have a voice and that their voice are heard. So like engaging with them, but in an active way and in a responsive way. So that is not just like a tick on the box that happens sometimes or many cases, but actually giving them, empower them, and giving them the agency, the right space to express their ideas and then to implement their ideas, which is very important. So I will, with this, I like to stop the first part of my presentation, where I really wanted to show you, some, kind of frame why it is important, and also the many benefits, because sometimes, people ask, why only for children? What about the others? And I think that we've been thinking a lot about the others over the past decades, or maybe just about someone that does not exist, like this healthy 30-year-old kind of working, and fit guy who does not really exist, because we are all vulnerable somehow. So we need really to look at the needs of different groups in society. At the same time, the needs of children are overlooked in general. So it's very, and they don't have, the capacity or the space, except in some cases, like in Tirana, to express their needs. So it's very important, as adults to be responsible for that and to create that space where they can actually be engaged and contribute. And I don't know if you have ever run a workshop with children. I did quite a number of them, but I'm always impressed about the inputs, the insight they provide, the ideas they come, and also the awareness that they have in terms of, the importance of the environment and the city. So it's always very interesting. Sometimes we kind of underestimate also their capacity to contribute. Anyway, I want to now, from this kind of theoretical framework, I like now to take you through a piece of work which I've been doing. It's not okay, which is basically the proximity of care design guide, because I want to show, as I said, kind of the process we went through, like understand what is the challenge, what are the benefits, at the same time, how can we put that into practice? Because at the end, we don't want to create an additional layer, additional silo to look at, but it's really how can we embed these principles into the work of city authorities, of developers, of planners, of educators working, in the city space. So what we did over the past years, we work with a Dutch organization which is called Bernard van Leer, which is, as Arup was kind of funded 70 years ago, more or less. And they've been working over this, period on how to improve the conditions of young children. In particular, the focus of the work is on children 0 to 5, caregivers, pregnant women. So we decided to start working together to bring the knowledge on early childhood development and our knowledge as Arup on urban design and planning to see how can we actually, create a space where experts in this field can talk, can understand each other, and they can start collaborating so that we can actually together have an impact on the way we design cities. So we've been working over the past 4 years now on this guide. Initially was focusing on vulnerable contexts, so looking at informal settlement, refugee settlements. And last year we launched a new version of the guide that is looking at also, any type of city, basically. And this design guide is online and is free to download and to explore, because it's a website, basically, the guide. And we developed the guide to, as I said, on one hand, to understand the connection between city spaces and early childhood development, to see how can we design city spaces that can actually improve the development and the well-being of young children. And we say that because we know as practitioners that children, to develop to the full potential, they require more than the minimum basic standards of good nutrition and healthcare, clean air and water. We know that. It's kind of the physiological needs that every human being has, and it's important to take care of. At the same time, we knew that for them to thrive in life, to develop to the full potential, they also need plenty of opportunities to explore, to play, to experience warm and responsive human interactions, and also to explore the environment where they grow up. In particular, we're focusing on children 0 to 5 in this guide, because the first years of a child life are extremely important, because 60% of adult mental structures develop in the first 3 years of life. So we need to invest in improving the condition of young children, because we're kind of basically created the foundations for all our life. So it's kind of the best investment we can do in cities. So what we did is, we started by really trying to frame this, understand how can we actually bring these two sector or industry, like early childhood development and city planning design, together. So we've been doing a lot of research over the years, and we developed this approach. It's called proximity of care framework, which is basically a tool that allows to better understand how urban systems relate to and influence early childhood development, and having like an holistic approach from like a child development perspective, also from an urban perspective. So we identify 4 key elements that help creating an environment that supports children well-being and development. And we look at these dimensions at different urban scales, where actually the children and caregivers spend most of their time, like in their home, in the neighborhood, also at city level, looking at the governance structure that is required. So there are 4 dimensions we need to consider, which are critical to create the right environment for children. We need to create healthy and enriching environment to support a good physical and mental health. Also, we need to create environments which are protective, are safe, create like the secure environment for children and the caregivers. Also, we need to create spaces which stimulate their development and also the engagement, and which are also nurturing and playful. And also, we also need to support enhance knowledge sharing, and also we need the support from communities, the social community, the local authorities, at the same time from practitioner and expert. And as I said, it's important to work at different urban scales. If you only work at the household level, is great, but it's important to work at neighborhood level. Otherwise, you kind of create a nice house environment But then when people go outside, they don't feel comfortable. So it's very important also to create this social connection, to look at the neighbor scale, at the same time at city scale. What is the right governance, the right policies, the right also social network that is required to support children, to support caregivers and pregnant women in cities. So we've been this kind of a diagram showing the framework, the approach. But if you look at the guide, there is a lot of information explaining why it's important and also how you can use this tool to understand in your city how to approach this very important topic. So what we did, we developed the framework and then we identify partners globally because we didn't want to do something that is kind of theoretical. We really wanted to do something that is everyone can use. So we work with 14 organizations across the globe who contributed in developing the guide. So Arup is not taking the credit for it. We've been leading on it, but it's the result of a collective effort, which I think is very important. That's the beauty of it. So basically what we did is like, on one hand, they tested the approach we develop in different contexts. Then we develop also training material and we help them understand the guide. At the same time, through the training process, they also contributed to the tools development, because basically they've been testing the tools we develop in different projects in different contexts. And so it was kind of an iterative process where like we created a framework, we tested it, and then we asked them to implement, and then they go back to us with input. So it was very much a collaborative process. And then out of the 10 partners who did the training with us, we selected 3, because also in the training I had to develop like a brief and a project and pilot the project. So 3 of them, they also piloted the proximity of care in their city. This is the example of Chile, where we work with Ciudad Emergente, which is a great design studio based in Chile. And we are still working with them. And they've been using the proximity of care approach to design and pilot the project Valvidia Neighborhood of Care. Basically, the aim of the project that they developed and they started to pilot is to transform a neighborhood which was very, where there is still a lot of traffic by trucks near also like a childcare place. They used the guide to transform this neighborhood into an environment where the needs of toddlers and children are met. And they did this by upgrading existing public spaces and playgrounds, and also connecting them with better bike and pedestrian infrastructure, and also kind of creating healthier, safer, and a more stimulating environment. And they did this as you can see from the pictures, in close collaboration with children and the caregivers. This is the other pilot which we are working on, which is in Montevideo, in Uruguay. And they're all beautiful. It's difficult to see which one is I prefer, but this one is, I think, is quite special because they're not only looking at the needs of children, but they're looking at needs of deaf children. In fact, the project is called Sensing the City. And so they, among other things, basically they are proposing a toolkit to promote communication interaction in the public space between deaf children and community members. And the organization we're working with is Spazio Ludico. And what when they organize the workshop in the public space, where you can see what the pilot, the prototype that they implemented, what they told us is that also elderly people, they went there and they went to thank them, because they say, now we know that there are people who are looking at the most vulnerable groups and nobody's like listening to us. So it's a way also to give like hope, to kind of change the dynamics in engagement, and to show to the community that everyone has the right to say what they think and what they like about what they want in the public space. And so it's very important to create the space to do that. The other example is from Brazil. That is another interesting project, because there we work in a favela, in an informal settlement. And what I like about this project is that they are focused, they use urban design also for behavior change, because the project is called Feel Free to Breastfeed, and we were working with Studio Mais in this favela in front of Rio de Janeiro. And what they basically did is working with women who are breastfeeding, and trying to design a space where they can feel comfortable to breastfeed, at the same time using that space as a community space for everyone with children to go and spend time, but also at the same time to change the perception or the idea around breastfeeding, because there are many taboos globally in terms of breastfeeding, and women don't feel comfortable to do that. So it's very important also to work when we look at design. Design is the easy part. It's more how through design can we change behavior of people, or how can we design in a way that people feel more comfortable. And as I said, we create this human interaction. So the result of this work with the proximity of care, as I said, is available online. And if you take a look at the guide, you will see that we really try to structure it in a way that is aligned with the kind of the life cycle of a kind of typical urban project. So from understand to design to implement and influence. So kind of the different stages of a life cycle project. And we did this because, as a practitioner, we wanted to also for ourselves to do something that is, is easy to use. It's very, really was done looking at the users, putting like the users at the forefront in terms of what do you need and how. And so that's why also while we develop it, we engage with different practitioners, because it's very important to do things that people can look and download and use and share. That's why it's also digital, because we can keep updating it as we are doing. And as you will see, in addition to there are many, like I show you like an example, like in the understand stage, you can see there on top, like the life cycle steps of a project. So really then from the different stages, looking at the different steps. And for each step, we identify tools that you can download, you can use, you can print, you can share, and then also case studies to inspire people, because there are, as I said, there are so many great examples from around the world. But the problem is that these are in many cases kind of pilot or like a small scale. So the challenge here, how can we make them implemented at city scale? What do we need to do that? And that's why the importance of governance, also why the importance of also focusing on the influence part to kind of get the right stakeholders around and on board to understand the importance of it, and then to put the funds that are required or the policy framework that is required to implement. But as you will see in the guide, so there are like practical tools. There is tailored advice for different users, so from city authorities to developers, also for urban practitioners and children development practitioners, and also some perspectives from different cities and practitioners from around the world, and videos as well to show how we've been implemented. So it's quite a rich guide, which I really recommend you to take a look. And then what we did is also, trying again to simplify, we all, because it's complex, but if you want people to use it, you need to try to simplify things. Otherwise people won't listen to you. So what we did, we also say, okay, the basics, what do you need to know if you want to create a child-friendly city? So we identify 10 key principles or guiding principles, which are kind of the highlight. You need to know this in order to develop. First one is very important. I will go through them quickly, but more information is available on the guide. It's very important to ensure a meaningful engagement and ongoing communication with the community through the project. We all know that engagement sometimes, in many cases, just a tick on the box. And when it's done, it's not done in a meaningful way. It's more like, okay, we organize a workshop, we tell you about the project. Thank you very much. See you next time. That doesn't work. That's not real. This is not a meaningful engagement. Meaningful engagement is really looking at, again, the life cycle of your project, and from the beginning to identify what are the key stakeholders, what are the key community groups you want to involve, and how do you create the right environment for involving them. It takes time, it takes money. That's the main issue we all face. There are never enough money for stakeholder engagement, but it's the best investment you can do, because there is, data showing that if you engage community stakeholders from the beginning in the right way, you are reducing the risk of losing money as well. Because in many cases, especially big programs, when there are not proper stakeholder engagement, people are not happy, they start to strike, and this stops projects and a lot of money. So, trying to make it also more tangible for why it's important. But also because, of course, you get the best insight to design solutions that are really, tailored to the needs of the communities. it's important to involve different type of stakeholders, and also it's also important to value and localize existing resources, skills, and partners. A solution that works in New York, it doesn't work in Nairobi. It's very important to understand how, I mean, the context, the local values, the local resources are, it's important to understand them and to value them. And so you can get inspired from around the world, but then you always need to adapt it to the local needs and to the local skills and patterns. It's very, and then the other principle about building health, support, stimulation, and protection from the beginning within the project. So having this holistic approach in the way we design infrastructure, public spaces, buildings is very important. So even if you were designing like a health facility, still you can look at how by designing this health facility, you can actually create a space that supports people who are grieving, or can stimulate children who go there with their parents. At the same time, it's a safe environment for people to go, and they don't feel judged. So this is like an example to show that it's very important to have this holistic approach to get all the benefits that I showed you before. Another thing is important, when you design, trying to derive multiple benefits from everyday space. So a school is not just a school. A school can become a community hub during the weekend, or can become like a learning center at night. So we need to build less and use more what we have. I think we are building far too much. And so let's try to focus on how can we use building spaces for multiple benefits and for multiple users. Also because these enables this kind of intergenerational exchange, which is also very important. So we're not only designing for children, we're designing for the community, we are designing for elderly people. And this exchange is very important. And then there is play and connection with nature, but I will talk more about this, so I won't stop here. And then the other important thing that I already mentioned is build positive behavior change. So as I said, the design part is the easy one. In many cases can be technical, but the way you design can actually change the way people behave in the public space. And to do that, you need to understand people and what they need and what they want and how they behave. So this kind of social science approach to urban planning is very important. And then measuring. The impact is also important, because if you don't measure, it doesn't exist. So the social, environmental, commercial impact is very important to measure. And also to advocate for child-friendly approaches. So the influence part is also critical. So now looking at, I will take you now through two of these principles, play and connection with nature, which are, play. Why is important? So over the years, we've been in Arup, we've been partnering with different organizations, in particular with the Real Play Coalition, including Lego Foundation, National Geographic, IKEA, and others, to basically to understand why play is important in cities in particular, and how can we create places where people can play, learn, and thrive, regardless of their age, gender, age, and ability. The other thing we've been working on is how can we bring play in the way we work. Internally as Arup, but also with our clients and community. So we've been, over the past year, we've been looking at these type of questions. And what we did is we developed different tools and methods, which are also available online, on how we can understand the connection between play and the built environment, and the natural environment, and again, providing tools that everyone can use to embed this approach into their daily work. This is the example of the work we did in Milan, where we use our tools and methods to undertake a play assessment, to co-create with children communities ideas for play activations, and then to develop also a play strategy for a neighborhood in Milan. And what we learned from our work is that to create healthy, nurture and thriving neighborhood, we need to design for play in cities, but we need to do that beyond playgrounds. When we think about play, in many cases, we only focus on playgrounds, but we need to go beyond that. Play can be embedded everywhere. We need to create a network of play spaces and across the city. And then the other important thing is that play is not, these benefits are not only for children, but for everyone. And what we focus on in our work is on how can we develop, how through play, we actually are contributing to the development of different skills: physical, social, creative, cognitive, and emotional skills. And in the last publication we did, which is the Playful Cities Design Guide, Play for Anyone, Anywhere, what we did is starting from the skills development, then looking at different urban spaces and different needs from different groups in the society. What we propose is basically for each of these spaces, we identify solutions on practical solutions, easy to implement, but inspiring, that exist already, on how you actually can embed play in the design of these spaces. And as you can see, the color bins are all the benefits that you can generate in terms of skills development. And then the last, I see that I'm taking more time than planned, but the other topic is about nature, which is very important. I already mentioned that. And a connection with nature is important for many benefits, for physical, mental benefits. But at the same time, it's important to teach to our children to respect the environment and cultivate a love for nature. Because as David Attenborough said, no one will protect what they don't care about, and no one will care about what they have never experienced. So the experience of nature is very important for children. And as I said, also as I showed before in the example, fostering the connection between play, nature, and the built environment. So how can we create nature-based solutions, blue and green infrastructure, where we add some playful elements so that we can create benefits, not only for the planet, but for the society. We developed this nature-based play publication, which also provides kind of key drivers on how you can actually embed this approach into your work, also showing what are the climate and the social positives that you create by adopting this approach to children and the broader society. And I will conclude here. In this publication, there are also incredible. We identified 12 case studies from around the world on what people, organizations are doing in terms of creating nature-based solutions where play is embedded, and show it also in this case the benefits that this generate. So I will stop here. I mean, because my message is really is it's not rocket science. There are many great examples out there. There are now tools available. We did the hard work creating these tools, showing the evidence. Now it's really, to implement them. And my question to you, what are you waiting for? It's all out there. So please start using them and let us know if we can help to mainstream this approach into your work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sara. What an amazing presentation. You showed so many examples from many cities from all over the world, and you showed that this is doable. Also, you showed how important it is for mental health, for physical health, for happiness, for people of all ages, because if we improve the beginning, we're going to improve their lives. And you showed how to do it with very small children, with children that are a little bit older, and so on. And you also spoke about the benefits. You also presented a lot of tools that people can use. Thank you for having developed, along with your team, all of these very, very not only interesting, but useful tools so that people won't waste a lot of time on developing what's already developed. Better use that time to actually get your decision makers, your elected officials and city staff and media and advocates and other community organizations to get things done. I think this is really, really important because the purpose of this webinar series is to get people to become passionate advocates on creating equitable and sustainable and fun cities for everyone. Thank you very much.